Hey everyone, welcome to From the Kitchen Table. I'm Sean Duffy, along with my co-host for the podcast, my partner in life, and my wife, Rachel Campos Duffy.
Oh, I'm so happy to be back here at our kitchen table, and joining us at the kitchen table is our daughter, Evita Duffy. And Sean, I had her on Jesse Waters' Primetime show this week because I hosted Jesse Waters' Primetime, and we did this fascinating topic, which you know how these shows go. The segment's like 4 minutes long. And this topic is so fascinating. It needed more time to breathe. Evita wrote an incredible article about this new fashion trend that's going viral on all the social media platforms. And it's called buccal fat removal. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I know this sounds like your favorite topic.
Yeah, my favorite topic.
It might be right up there with the Royals.
Right, exactly. But I got to say, Evita's been a frequent guest on the podcast because it's our kitchen table, and she seems to be around our kitchen table quite a bit. She's an easy guest.
Even though she's married, she comes back a bit. Also, as we've looked at ratings, she rates well.
She rates. Evita rates.
Evita rates.
All right.
Evita, you wrote this article for the Federalist, and I thought, truthfully, it sounds like a superficial thing, right? We're talking about another, beauty trend. And for some reason, though, you took it to this other level. I thought it was so interesting. Evita?
Yeah. So first, let's explain what it is. So buccal fat, it sounds really bad, but it's actually not bad. It's the fat that's in your cheeks that makes you have a full looking face.
Kind of makes you look like a chipmunk, maybe.
Well, in some people, but in most people, it's just normal, and it looks good. So,
like, if you have firmness and fullness on your cheeks, that's what people want, so that as they get older, they actually lose the buccal fat, and some women end up putting fillers in or do some other plastic surgery in order to get that fullness back. So why would anyone want to take away this fat pad in your cheek that you're going to probably want as you get older?
Yeah. So buccal fat makes you look youthful, which is why it's important. And it's especially important not to remove it at a young age, because you lose it as you get older.
Why are they doing it? What's the trend? What's the beauty thing?
Right. So people, especially now, if you look at pictures of Bella Hadid or Lea Michele, they like that they have these, or Angelina Jolie is a great example, really high cheekbones. So to get this high cheekbone look, they're removing the fat in their cheeks to sort of accentuate it. But the problem is, and they say, oh, it makes your face look more angular and all these things. The problem is you're actually not, you're pronouncing the cheekbones, but you're doing it at the expense of the youthfulness and fullness of your face.
So you look kind of sunken at the cheeks. But also the other thing they get beauty wise, I think, is, and I've been looking at some of these pictures, I don't think these girls look better at all, but you can see their jawline better, which is another sort of sculpted look that they're getting. So
it's actually very masculine. I think actually some men have done it, and I think it looks better on men than it does on women. But the trend, it's like the doctors, when they ask them about it, it's like 85% women that are getting this surgery, and it's only increasing. So there was a lot of celebrities who were doing it in the past, or over the last year. Now it's become a TikTok trend. It has millions of hits on TikTok. Doctors are reporting that they're getting it, seeing twice as many people asking for the surgery than ever before.
Right. And I think one of the celebrities that has sort of accelerated that trend is Chrissy Teigen, who's,
because she's one of the few that's actually admitted to getting it. There's a lot who we suspect has it. Chrissy Teigen has come out and said,
Chrissy Teigen I think she is like part Thai, right? I believe.
Yeah.
And her face is very full. It always has been. I think it's what makes her kind of different and interesting in terms of, she's not like your typical, standard beauty. I think she's pretty, and she has these full cheeks, but obviously she maybe thinks they're too much, and she took them out. And so she admitted to them. I saw her picture because, again, I thought she looked better before.
So listen, this is a topic I did not know about at all until I watched you guys do this segment. And it was funny. I was in the control room, in the green room, as you guys were doing the segment. I didn't even know what you were going to talk about because I didn't read this.
You know why you don't know? Because you don't read the Daily Mail, which is it's the first thing I do in the morning.
It's Rachel's online Bible. But I was in the green room, and it was funny. Dr. Siegel, who's on Fox all the time, he had done a segment with you a couple segments earlier than Evita. And we were talking as Evita came on. He's like, oh, that's your daughter. And what's she going to talk about? I'm like, I don't know. And then because I don't know this buccal fat issue. And then you introduced the segment. And before Evita spoke, Dr. Siegel's like, oh my God, I wish I would have known, because this is a horrible trend. And people get it when they're young and they think they're going to look good forever. The problem is when you get old, you look that much older when you've taken all the fat out. And it's like, I wish I would have known and would have told her to say this.
Of course, Evita was going to say that anyway.
And the first thing Evita said was the aging issue.
It's going to accelerate your aging.
Exactly.
So here's what's interesting to me, Evita, is there have been trends. Okay. And yeah, part of the problem with this one is that it's a permanent beauty trend, but it has gone viral really quick. There seems to be an acceleration of trends like this because of social media.
Yeah. So social media has had a really interesting impact on the beauty industry for two reasons. One, things that are really unusual and unnatural go viral on social media because it does really well with the algorithm. So these really crappy trends are what show up in your feed. And the other thing is that in the past, a trend, even a bad trend, might last a few years. You have like cargo pants.
Well, I said it wasn't a bad trend.
Nothing wrong with cargo pants.
Whoa.
Right. So bad trends might last a few years. Now they're lasting months, maybe even weeks. So to keep up, you have to make decisions really fast. And when you're forced to make really big decisions, like, am I going to alter my face in a matter of weeks? You can end up making really bad decisions.
And I think it's fascinating. We talk about this a lot on the podcast, the influence of social media over the youth in America. And you talk about TikTok. I mean, I'm sure the Chinese TikTok would never allow this trend to happen in China itself, but in America, they're like, let the algorithm kick up and have these kids destroy their faces. But usually this would be a conversation that if more girls are doing it, it's a conversation that a young girl might have with their mom. Or maybe with their family as a whole. It's going to maybe alter the way they look. They would talk to their parents, but it seems like there's not a lot of parental advice that's being given in this situation.
I don't know if a lot of like teenagers are getting this done, but it's like young women in their 20s.
But even early 20s, I think would go, hey, mom, I'm looking at doing this. I mean, we hear a whole bunch of, things that go on with Evita and what she's doing at work and where she's looking at moving. Kids share a lot with their lives, with their parents. And that might be one thing they would share. But social media is the big influencer, not the families or the parents' perspective on whether this is a good or bad idea for this procedure or surgery for their child to undertake.
Yeah, it's the other mother for sure. And I think mom's right that it's not teenagers that are doing this so much as it is young women, because you have to have, if a really rich teenager might be able to do it. It used to be maybe like $9,000 to $12,000. Now the price is coming down as there's been more people doing it and they want to make it more accessible, make more money off of it. So now it's around like $4,000 or $5,000.
And they got to hurry up because the trend will end quickly. So
right.
They got to lower the price, get as many people in.
Yeah. So it'd be like a young woman in probably her 20s who has some, an expendable income and says, I'm going to do this for myself. And they're definitely not talking to their moms about it for sure. I mean, this is, they see Bella Hadid doing it and all these girls on their TikTok doing it. And they're like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna make the move right now.
And the ability to know what celebrities are doing
all the time,
and the the fact that it used to be that celebrities wanted a mystery about themselves, but now what they trade in on is their personal life. So the more they seem like they're divulging what's most intimate and personal about them, the bigger their following is in social media. So that's also playing into it as well.
Well, because they're not just making money now on the movies or the music, they're making huge money on social media. They're
as being influencers,
to divulge themselves and influence. This kind of reminds me of, and again, I this is not a topic that I was aware of before Evita wrote on it, and I watched you guys' segment, but it's kind of, maybe this is, I'm going back to my own youth, that when someone gets a tattoo when they're like 22 years old, that they're going to have for the rest of their lives, they're like, oh my God, why did I get that tattoo? How stupid was that? Now,
are you dissing on me right now?
Maybe a little bit.
That's exactly what happened to me, but it's true. I got a tattoo when I was 22, when I was on The Real World.
Yeah, well, you were the example.
And other people, I know some people get tattoos
they
at
might
22.
regret it
Just
later in
happen
life.
to name the exact age that I got, but yeah. So yeah, but it's so true. But I was at least clever enough to put it on my back. It is large, I will admit, but it's on my back and it's not like on my hand or my arm
or your face
or my face. So let me talk about something else, because I think what really got fascinating to me in your article was when you started towards the end to get really deep, because you said that another reason why this trend is accelerating and going viral is because our culture no longer has standards of beauty or objective standards of beauty. And in fact, they believe modern society wants to actually destroy any standards of beauty. And so it's much easier to, I guess, allow, or I don't know how to explain it, but for people to go on these trends because the standard of beauty doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. So we're Catholic. So we're going to go to Thomas Aquinas, because the Catholics were the ones who really made aesthetics a theological field of study, and talked about how there is such thing as objective beauty, that there's a math to it. There's something called the golden ratio that
what is the golden ratio?
So I'm not a math person, so I'm not going to be great at explaining what it is exactly. You can look it up yourselves, but it's basically a proportion standard that the Mona Lisa, the spiral on seashells, the little veins on leaves, they all sort of abide by these mathematical standards.
I see.
Proportional standards. And also the Parthenon is another one.
But the length in your arm, like your shoulder to your elbow, and your knuckle to our whole bodies are made up with this standard as well. I don't know if it was like 6.4 or I don't know what the number is, but
so that might be a little bit different than the golden ratio. That's like a beauty standard, but you're right that there is just there's a science to proportions and to beauty and to how we look at things. But there's also not, so that's a more mathematical way of talking about it. There's also a biological realm too about beauty. And they say, in women, a low hip ratio is attractive. In women, youthful faces, actually women and men, youthful faces are attractive.
There's some sort of proportions in the face as well, or
yep, and the averageness,
symmetry, I guess.
Yep. So there's a lot of ways that we can figure out, what is and isn't beautiful. And a big,
isn't it like pornography? When you see something beautiful, you just know it's beautiful. Just like if you see something nobody has to explain pornography. If you see it, you know it.
Well, so I mean, yes. So what they say, and this is what Thomas Aquinas says, that's partially it. It's your senses and it's also your mind. So there's also a science to it. So there's both. And now we say, beauty is whatever we think it is. Beauty is to the eye of the beholder. And part of what they say refutes Thomas Aquinas and these other theologians is, well, everybody disagrees on what is and isn't beautiful. And the answer to that is, that's people having imperfections among ours. Our minds are imperfect, not that objective beauty doesn't exist. It's just that it's hard for us to decipher it because we're all,
different.
We're all imperfect. Our minds are imperfect. And now we've taken it to a whole new level. So nothing is objective. There's no objectivity to beauty. They have really obese people who are definitely not beautiful and definitely not healthy with the cover of the magazine saying this is beautiful and this is healthy.
Or even telling you, as you see, I'm sorry, Sean, who's the guy that worked in the Biden administration who's always stealing luggage?
Samuel Britton.
Samuel Britton.
Is it Sam? Yeah.
Yeah, Sam Britton. And if you've seen pictures of him dressed as a woman, to me, it's not beautiful at all. It's the opposite of beautiful. It's somewhat repulsive. He has a mustache, but he wears lipstick. If I say that in polite circles, I would be chastised for saying that he was not beautiful.
We'll have more of this conversation after this.
We've completely lost touch with reality and just said everything is subjective. If there is sort of a consensus, like if most people in the world say a beard and lipstick doesn't look good, they'll, say, well, that's a social construct.
Right. And by the way, you might lose your job for it too.
and you might lose your job. And so I think to go back to buccal fat surgery, the reason why we're falling for really terrible beauty trends like this is because we've lost sight of what is beautiful. We don't know anymore. Yeah. We're told everything is fake. Everything's in your mind. Everything's a construct. And we can't look with our senses and our minds to know what is and isn't beautiful. We fall for really, really bad trends.
That's fascinating and maybe this is a generational issue, because for me, I look at things and I can still say, that's beautiful. That's not beautiful. And you can tell me that, someone who's overweight is really beautiful, or someone who I think is ugly is beautiful. But you can tell me that, but you're not going to change my opinion. I wonder though, with how, young people's minds have been messed with with this garbage education that they get. if they're more susceptible to go, oh, society says this is beautiful. Oh, this must be beautiful. And they're actually buying into it. But I think an older generation who didn't have all of these crazy inputs that your generation has, I think still, sees beauty in the traditional fashion.
Can I say this too? I mean, one of the things I do like about modern culture is that there are right now, it's okay that there are wider views of what is beautiful. When I was growing up, you only saw Christy Brinkley, who is objectively beautiful.
Who's that?
Yeah, you don't even know who that is, but there was Christy. She's like, "Who's that?"
I don't know.
Okay,
is that like a blonde model or something?
Yeah, she's okay. Yeah. I can't believe I'm explaining who Christy Brinkley is, but there was Farrah Fawcett and there was not Christy Teigen. Who was the one from Charlie's Angels? Cheryl Tiegs. Suffice to say that most of them were these very tall blonde women, and somewhere along the line, the definition of beauty widened, and so now people like Jennifer Lopez and other people started entering into that realm. Well, before, that wasn't. So that is a good thing. But how is that? How is what I'm saying different from what you're saying?
Well, that seems to be a racial issue, right? I mean, you can anybody of any skin tone can be beautiful. I think that's,
of course.
I think that's I probably.
But our society was not elevating those.
Yeah,
those images of beauty. Not even when I was a kid. I don't remember that.
Yeah, I think that would be a corporate America. I mean, that probably would be a social issue, right? There are. I'm thinking, oh, this is beautiful model, and she was in the movie done by Key and Peele, and I'm forgetting her name. But anyways, she's a beautiful African model, and I was thinking as you were saying that you never would see women like that in the past, and now she's gracing the movie scenes, and I think that's wonderful. This is different. This is not racialized at all. This is about warping. I think you were talking about gender, right? Men wearing with beards and lipstick, and then also just having the understanding that when you're looking at Chrissy Teigen or when you're looking at all these other celebrities, Lea Michele, their faces look sunken with the surgery.
They look sad, actually.
They don't look good. So it's not just what's going to happen in the future. It's just looking at them and knowing they're looking like skeletons right now. They're not looking youthful. And it has something to do with race and everything to do with, what we value for beauty, which is generally youth, and doing something to actively take that away from someone.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting.
It has nothing to do with race.
The other part is just accepting like who you are and what you are. And I don't think, unless there's some serious thing going on, any 20-year-old should be undergoing the knife, right?
Well, it's just can I go back to my 8th grade history class or 6th grade history class? Was it the Mayans who actually would flatten their noses? And yeah, and then they would actually put something between babies' eyes and make them cross-eyed, and that was beauty in their culture, right? They thought that this was beautiful to have a flattened nose. They put a board on a person's face and flatten them and make them cross-eyed, and that was beauty in their culture. So maybe beauty is culture. In culture right now, I was trying to say these
wanted smaller feet, and so they would bind the girl's feet or whatever, right?
I don't know. So this thing maybe so again, if culture defines beauty, this is our culture trying to say these different things are beautiful. And it's interesting. Again, we had different images when we were growing up. These images, again, a transgender man, a man who's become a woman, is now on the cover of Vogue and whatever female magazines you guys look at.
Swimsuit Illustrated, or is it like the swimsuit?
And did I hear somewhere that a transgender man was going to be in Playboy? So they're pushing. Culture is trying to push their ideology onto us, and who knows, maybe they'll be successful, and these coming generations will be like, that is the most beautiful thing, a transgender man. I don't want a real woman. I want a man who's pretending to be a woman. Who knows?
The problem with this stuff is it's not about beauty so much as it is about politics. This is not like we're going to tell you that a man with boobs but a beard who wears eye makeup but also has armpit hair is wonderful and beautiful, and we're all kind of looking at it like that's not true. But there's a political message behind that to normalize these sort of deviant sexual tendencies that we're now trying to
Yeah, I
say
mean,
are-
it's a little bit like Emperor's New Clothes, where we're all supposed to say, yeah, that's really beautiful.
you go queen.
Yeah, exactly. There's definitely that. I think that this trend is interesting. I love that you wrote about it, because I don't think it's the last one we're going to
And
see.
we're getting it. We're going into like a little bit of other territory with the political stuff, but I think that
Yeah, let's go back to
my point
the buccal fat.
my point
ads.
with buccal fat surgery is just looking at it. We know it doesn't look good. We know it's going to be even worse for you in the long run. And the reason people aren't being able to figure that out is because they know in their hearts a man with a beard doesn't look good, but everybody's telling them that it does. And so they can't trust themselves. And so when they say everybody else is doing this and it's really good, they can't use their own mind. They can't use their intellect to say, and their senses to say, ooh, it's not a good idea. Don't do this. And they end up being really susceptible to really bad ideas.
It's so surprising to me that someone like Chrissy Teigen would do this, because she's somebody who's so wealthy, and you would think she would be getting better advice on what to do. But I looked at the picture; it's totally changed the way she looks. And in a way that changes how uniquely beautiful she was. And I think it's really unfortunate. The Michelle, what's her name?
Leah Michelle.
Leah Michelle.
Yeah,
I
it's
saw
not
her
very
picture.
feminine, to be
She
honest.
looked worse, like without a doubt. She looked really sunken and hollow. And obviously, this is going to get worse for her as she gets older. Well, Evita, thank you for bringing up these trends. Sometimes we old people here don't always catch on to the trend. I did see it on the Daily Mail. You and I talked about it, and you were like, "Should I write about this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you should write about this for sure, because it's happening out there." So, last word.
Don't mess with your face. Just stay natural. And also, so we talked about this being really cultural and not being able to tell the sense. This is also a multi-billion-dollar beauty industry. So don't give them what they want either.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. It's those doctors that are making a lot of money, and then the next trend comes along,
And they make more.
and they make more. That's right.
And just to wrap this up, we used to have doctors that cared about, the health of people, and whether it's doing this surgery that is maybe not a health issue, but it's going to be a beauty issue as these young people age. But also, you look at the massive amounts of money that doctors are now making on, transition of little kids from one sex to the other. And I have to believe that they don't really care about the health of the child. They see dollar signs when they see a child come in who's disturbed, has issues, and they're going to say, well, listen, we'll transition you. Here we go. As opposed to saying, we're going to wait. We're going to go, you know what? Because we all know kids go through trends, and this could be real for that child, or it could be
And
something
this is also
of a phase.
a social media trend, Sean. I mean,
Yeah.
absolutely. A lot of these kids that are coming forward with those kinds of, I don't know what gender I am anymore. A lot of that has been fed by the social media trends. And yeah, you're right. A doctor is supposed to do no harm, but too many are seeing that they could get a lifelong patient by transitioning a child, and it's really sick stuff.
It's sad. And I mean, we saw doctors not doing what was best for patients as well during COVID,
Yeah, we sure did.
making mistakes all over the map. So shame on some of those doctors, but the doctors I know that we know have been very good and outspoken on many of these issues. So listen, I appreciate Evita joining us on our podcast. Always so smart and insightful, and bringing issues to the forefront that her father doesn't know anything about.
Now you know everything you need to know
About buccal
more
fat.
than you ever wanted to know about buccal fat.
Buccal fat. Wow. But again, I think it's important, and it's important to know what is happening in culture, and especially with our youth, and especially if you're a parent. It's an issue that you can talk to your kids about, to go, I don't know if you're hearing this, but no.
Oh yeah, your
bad
kids
call.
are definitely getting trends and ideas on social media that mom and dad don't know. As you said, it's the other mother.
The other mother, the Chinese mother that you have in your kid's phone that talks to your child every single day. And that's a bad Chinese mama.
On TikTok. That's right. Okay.
Well, listen, thanks for joining us on our podcast. And I appreciate Evita joining us as well. I hope you all have a wonderful new year, and joy and festivities. Be safe, and Merry Christmas as well. If you like our podcast, you can rate, review, subscribe wherever you get your podcast. We'd appreciate it. And thanks for joining us at the kitchen table.
Bye, everybody. Listen ad-free with a Fox News Podcast Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Prime members can listen to the show ad-free on the Amazon Music app.
For the full podcast, go to foxnewspodcast.com.